Evening and welcome to our school committee meeting of this Wednesday, June 19th, 2019. It is 7 p.m. I'd like to call our meeting to order. At this time, could we please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Remind everyone that we are being broadcast live as well as recorded for future rebroadcast. Looks like we do not have our students coming in for the summer. No summer school students for reports? No?
No one volunteered for that duty.
My son started asking me about what summer school was, and I was like a little concerned why he was asking. But I think we're okay.
Most of the call didn't come from us.
Yeah. Public comment and communication. I do not see any members of the public here. So I'm going to skip through that section. Any old business we would like to address? Any new business? No new business. Okay. Mr. Mange, your superintendent's report.
Okay, so the end of the school year, as we know, it ended last Thursday. A number of promotions and graduation ceremonies took place. They were all splendid. They were really well attended. So we had the pre-K promotion, which took place at the elementary cafeterium, however you want to,
yeah. That was massive.
Whatever you call that combination room.
That turnout there.
Which was really nice. It's Mrs. Sosha's got it made. You can't go wrong when they're cute like that. So nobody's going to find fault with the ceremony. But it was very well attended. A lot of very favorable feedback from parents and grandparents. The kindergarten promotion took place as well, and that was also very well attended at the middle school. The place was jam-packed.
Yep.
Had to be 400 or 500 people for the K promotion. And again, can't go wrong. They're exceedingly cute. Grade 8 had their promotion ceremony on Wednesday. Also very well attended. We had a keynote speaker, which would be Maureen Grady, came in and spoke and did a wonderful job talking about the high school experience. And, of course, we had high school graduation back a short time ago, and that was also very well attended. There were 5 retirements at the end of the year for staffing. So Katie Gilrain, the nurse at the primary school, has retired. Andrea Janae, a kindergarten teacher at the primary school, retired as well. Nancy Doyle, who is our grade 2 teacher from the elementary school, retired. Maria Creedon-Dionis, special education teacher at the middle school, retired. And next week, tentatively, Sherry Osterman, the administrative assistant to the principal at the middle school, is slated to retire as well. That'll be a significant transition as well. And I should mention that earlier in the year, as you recall, Diane Whippio, grade 4 teacher at the elementary school, had retired, and Lynn Gaskell here at the high school, the business teacher, had retired earlier in the year. So all total, there's 7 retirements out of the district. We wish them all the best. There were some celebrations that went on and so forth, and they'll be missed, but we hope that they'll have a great retirement. And then the only other thing that I would mention was that the weather was not all that supportive of field days, so there were some adjustments that needed to be made. Elementary school moved theirs a day. The middle school had to adjust, and they added inside, so they had things in the middle school gymnasium and auditorium and hallways and cafeteria. And they also used the gymnasium at the elementary school, and I believe someplace else in the elementary school. But field day went off well. They were able to do so. A couple of field trips to Canopy and other places that all went very well. So, all in all, the year ended in fine fashion.
That's great.
And that was all I had for the end of the school year report.
May I ask a question?
Yep.
Are you accounting for future retirements that are slated to happen this school year? Like, have we already prepared for those?
There's only one that we're aware of, and that would be Mr. LaChapelle here at the high school.
It's unfortunate. I wish he would stay.
I think you never know. He may change his mind.
Maybe you could have a little influence.
I've talked to him.
And then Mrs. Osterman, do we have a replacement? Are we allowed to talk about that?
I don't know if we are allowed to talk about that, but yes, we do have a replacement. It is it was an internal candidate. They interviewed, I believe, 5 or 6 candidates, and they settled on an internal candidate. She will start on July 1. Then we can probably introduce it at that point when she starts the position.
Great. Any other questions, comments? No? Yeah, I'd just say I attended the preschool graduation or ceremony as well as the 8th grade, and I thought they were both great. So it was nice. I missed kindergarten this year for the first time in a few years, it feels like. So, but I'm sure it was good too.
The 8th grade I thought was really wonderful as well, and
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
Very.
it just, again, I say it all the time, but you know, we're very fortunate. We've got great kids in this community.
Yeah, great job with the chorus at the 8th grade one as well. I know that. So.
They were great. A lot of awards and real connection. You can see there's a real connection between them and the students and the teachers, and spirit of community in their building as well.
The speaker, by the way, if I may, the kids really enjoyed the speaker that was there. She was very impressionable, and I mean, Mr. Delaney obviously spoke well too, but her daughter is quite it's a good speech.
No, good. Like
She did do a good
She was
job.
well
Kids really
spoken,
enjoyed it.
but even like the message was like
Yeah.
on point for the audience. You
Yep.
know, like she did a great job with that.
Yep.
Thank you all. I will convey
Yeah.
that to her.
Yeah.
I'm kind of glad I shortened mine down because a lot of what I would have said was echoed by
Yeah.
Maureen, so, which was good, about take advantage of all the opportunities, and I took it out of there, which is great, because
Yep.
she hit on it, so it was even better.
Good.
Better coming from her than from me.
Sure. All right. So, anything else tonight, Mr. Maines?
Nope,
All right.
that was it.
All right. We'll move on to our school committee and subcommittee reports. Our accounts payable report.
Okay, I just have one warrant signed on June 6, 2019. Those 5 batches totaling $73,249.39.
Excellent.
Nothing unusual.
Okay. Any questions, comments on accounts payable report? No? Okay. So next up on our agenda there is our superintendent's assessment. So thanks to our admin for the evening. We have I don't even need my glasses for this now. So actually, I still need them.
do. So.
So this is our first go-through with providing an assessment for Mr. Maines. We're all relatively new to the committee, and this is the first time we've done an assessment for Mr. Maines, as he was still an interim at the end of last year. So kind of not struggling, but I'm winging it as we go through this. So this is a compilation of the feedback that I received from everyone here on the committee, as well as your self-assessment, Mr. Maines. I'm not going to read through everything. I've summarized some things as far as the goals. I had to retype a lot of this because a lot of the information I had was either handwritten or in PDF format. So I did the best I could in getting this in here. No, it's all right. No, we worked with what we have, but we'll try to improve that for next year. So I'm just going to go through maybe the overall rankings and our goals. So it's 4 sections overall. It's our goals. It's the standards. Then the overall summary of performance and the impact on students, and then I kind of put down the comments that we had there at the end. So, with regards to your goals, professional practice, goal number 1, high level was working in conjunction with the administrative team to create a positive school culture and climate. I would say is the best summary there. Your self-assessment was having met that goal, and everyone that provided an assessment on that also agreed that you had met that goal. So an overall rating of met the goal. Professional practice 2 was the administrative team will operate in a collegial and supportive leadership team through both our professional demeanor as well as shared commitment to making our schools institutions of learning and growth. So I really saw this one as being the professional collaboration is kind of the best sum here. Your self-assessment was meet or exceed, and we had either met or exceeded was the assessment from the school committee. So I had an overall ranking of exceed for that goal. Student learning. This goal is really centering around work to ensure that our curriculum instruction and assessments are current and that they are posted in the Rubicon Atlas. Your self-assessment was significant progress, and the school committee's assessments were ranged anywhere from some progress to significant progress, so I had that as an overall significant progress rating. Under district improvement, a commitment to continue to focus on supporting and effectively responding to the social, emotional, and behavioral needs of our students is the overall summary. Your self-assessment was you had met or exceeded that goal. And the school committee's assessments ranged mostly with met. We had 1 exceeded in there, so I had the overall rating on that as a met, that goal. And then district improvement goal number 2, develop shared understanding for classroom expectations as part of the evaluation process. You had that goal as being met, as well as did everyone on the school committee. So we had an overall rating of met on that goal.
So if I could go back onto the goals, on the student learning goal number 1.
Yeah.
We had talked a little bit about this, and I had just got done reviewing the NEASC report that came in just recently.
Okay.
And I think it's important that the committee and the community realize that the only thing that is holding us back on updating curriculum and professional development opportunities is funding. And that's the area that we knew was being compromised, maybe is the best way of saying it, is that we weren't able to continue to have teachers work collaboratively on curriculum. We weren't able to pay them to do the work outside of the school setting. We haven't been able to continue to keep the vertical teams active. As we mentioned recently, that's an area that we want to commit to going forward next year. And also, we have a plan in place to try to address the curriculum piece of it as well. But in order to effectively address it, I think that there's going to be a need for some additional funding for that in order for us to get the work done that needs to be done. It can't all be done in a 45-minute period of prep time. It really needs to be beyond that.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on the goal section? So under standards, and again, this was all part of the template that you had provided for us, which I think was very helpful. Again, I'm not going to go, so there's 4 standards: instructional leadership, management and operations, family and community engagement, and professional culture. Under each one of them, there's anywhere from 4 to 6 kind of subcategories. I'm not going to read out the individual subcategories, but I will read the overall as well as note if there's anything in the subcategories overall. So under instructional leadership, the summary is that it's the educational leader promotes the learning and growth of all students and the success of all staff by cultivating a shared vision that makes powerful teaching and learning the central focus. We had that as proficient across the board for the school committee. And all of the sub kind of categories there were mostly proficient. A couple needs improvements were noted as well. Under management and operations standard, the summary of that is the education leader promotes the learning and growth of all students and the success of all staff by ensuring a safe, efficient, and effective learning environment, using resources to implement appropriate curriculum, staffing, and scheduling. Again, overall, we had that as proficient, with the subcategories ranging anywhere from proficient to exemplary. Ms. Canaro gave me some conflicting information, so I had her overall as proficient/exemplary. She had a proficient on one page and exemplary on another, but she had some of her subcategories as exemplary as well, so just to note that. Under family and community engagement, the education leader will promote promotes the learning and growth of all students and the success of all staff through the effective partnership with families, community organizations, and other stakeholders that support the mission of the district and its schools. And again, here we had the rating as proficient across the board for all school committee members, and all the subcategories were also proficient across the board. And the last standard, professional culture, the education leader promotes the learning and growth of all students and the success of all staff by nurturing and sustaining a district-wide culture of reflective practice, high expectation, and continuous learning of staff. Again, here, we had an overall rating of proficient across the board for the school committee, but we had several subcategories here noted as exemplary, and it was interesting. There were different exemplaries for different folks on the school committee, but I think every school committee member noted at least one of the subcategories in this area as being exemplary. And we had one area that was noted as a needs improvement from a school committee member. I particularly just in particular the shared vision piece, and I think that came up. You'll see in the comments as well as I think across a lot of the rankings we had here. I think that's the piece that this committee. I am going to speak just based on what I heard. So at least was. Again, the development of the vision that you've been sharing, both the development of it and then the sharing of it on a continuous basis, and reinforcing of that vision for driving the district forward has been something I think notable for our district, and it seems that everyone here in the school committee noted that as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments on the standards section? Okay. And overall summative performance, we had you proficient across the board. And I think this is kind of just an overall ranking based on the goals and the standards, based on the template that we used. And then the last category I had was the impact on student learning, and your rankings here range from moderate to high, with an overall ranking of moderate, but it should be noted that I think 3 school committee members had you at moderate and 2 as high, so kind of a split decision there with impact on student learning. So then lastly, just the comments, and if anyone would like to kind of object to me just reading off the comments that I had. Most of these came from either the summary section, some I kind of pieced together from comments made through the goals. So we had comments of student learning has significant progress that needs to be made, higher levels of programs for kids who are above average learners needs to be a focus, offering tracks and other programs like the technical schools. A comment of Mr. Maines is highly visible and involves superintendent. He continually puts forth his vision to improve the district and move it forward despite the budget constraints. The district staff and students are impacted by his dedication to the Douglas schools instead of letting the fiscal issues degrade the quality of student learning. Mr. Maines continues to push ahead so that Douglas education continues to be of great quality for all students. Another comment, despite budget constraints, Mr. Maines continues to strive for the highest standards in instructional leadership, management and operations, family and community engagement, and professional culture. Although the growth of the district may be hampered by budget constraints, the growth of students continues positively under Mr. Maines' leadership, collaboration, and direction. And then lastly, in just his second year on the job, Mr. Maines has been able to drive significant improvements in our school district. Most notable areas of improvement under his leadership include development and communication of a shared vision for improving the district, and improved climate and culture across all grade levels and buildings. These improvements have been driven and enabled by strong collaboration across the administrative team and education staff. With these improvements in place, I feel that the district is now better positioned to make further strides in providing the highest levels of instruction and developing, offering additional programs that will prepare our students for life beyond graduation.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. So, overall, very positive grades, marks there, which I think reflects kind of what we've all stated here in the past. But also, I think we'd all agree that there's some things that we'd want to do better, and I think we're well positioned to probably perform better in some of those areas now that we've gotten some of the things around, particularly climate and culture. And I think that vision, having that vision in place, should enable progress in other areas going forward. So.
I've been happy with the opportunity to share with the admin team, because I think that Courtney and Neely could certainly speak to that. It is a very collaborative process. I'm open ears, and I would mention that I'm glad for the opportunity to work with the DTA leadership team. We've had very productive meetings throughout the course of the last 2 years. They've been very receptive. It's not adversarial. It's a more positive. Of course, we do have a contract coming up next year, so we'll see how long that stays in that regard. But I think those are really important pieces. And I think, going back to some of the areas, we know that there are areas that we would like to offer in greater improvement. I'm thinking for a couple of years we had talked about at the middle school trying to bring VHS there so that some of the students who are performing high achievers and so forth would have an opportunity to take some of those courses. But again, it comes down to the funding, and as you all know, because I'm preaching to the choir, that things have had to go in order to stay within the dollar amount. And so there are some of those things, and hopefully as we move along in years, that if there's additional funding, we can bring some of those improvements that we've talked about and shared in here and continue to move it forward. But again, it will come down to, at some point, some additional dollars being available to offer those programs. But we do the best we can with the money we have.
We'll keep finding those. So you did mention something I actually left out of my comments and meant to put in there. I think a lot of times when you do assessments, you base it on the presence of something. We created a program, we added this, we added that. I think what stood out to me in my assessment I tried to focus on was the absence of something, and that was some of the conflict. And I think that's been notable for me over the last couple of years, is how smoothly a lot has gone around here. And I think that has to be a testament to your leadership, as well as the collaborative nature of the whole administrative team. So I just want to note that as well. So.
Well, thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
Mind if I
Sure,
say
absolutely,
something? So, yeah, and I want to reiterate that as well, because, money is a big problem, but without the leadership and the vision and the collaboration, You can have all the money in the world, and that doesn't necessarily mean that it will translate into what
Right.
you would be looking for to achieve the best in public education for the students.
We'd love to have both, but I guess if you
So
had to choose
we
the
would,
number one,
we
I
would
guess
love
you
to
could-
have both, but, you know, it does come down, having the leadership and the vision. I can tell you
Yeah.
that for me as a business and operations manager, it has been a wonderful, for the whole 7 years I've been here, working with him as a superintendent has been a huge, huge improvement. For me being in a central office, the vision and the collaborative, working environment, particularly around the budget.
Yep.
The way that he structured it, I had never had before, and it was an extreme frustration for me that, he brought everybody together, that, we all had our input and seeing the visionary aspect of it as well. Even though we didn't have the money, it was a good exercise to put out there, what would we do? What do we know we need? And to convey that to the public as well, because that's important for the future to obtain some of that funding. If we don't put that vision out there, then we can't really complain that we're not getting the funding if we're not letting people know what we can derive or obtain from that funding. That's hugely important, especially for me working in central office, so I just wanted to say that. And I really appreciate it.
Thank you as well. And you, as a board, have had to do the exact same thing, is you've had to make tough decisions, and that's exactly what we've done, but we try to make them with the greatest impact and the least adverse impact as well. So, and it's exactly what you have to do every year with the budget as well. And so I think the fact that that you're willing to let us present and share that, it takes time, it's time-consuming and so forth, but the more information we can share, the better we can all make decisions that will best influence the district. And that's kind of what we try to do. And we'll continue to do.
If I may say one other thing, that I'm also very appreciative of the school committee as well. I think, and I know I've said this before, but I'd like to say it in public as well, that the way that, I don't know if I'll say it right, but the way that you conduct yourselves, with us, and the way I feel it's a collaborative working relationship as well. And I'm very appreciative of that, because I'm sure you know that in some towns,
Oh, yeah.
there's this huge divide, and it's just been a wonderful experience all around. I know that, and I've said this to you before, I don't remember if I've said it in public, but your hearts are in it, and that's what counts, and I think that's what makes the difference.
Thank you.
So,
Appreciate that.
I want to say that as well.
So maybe you can help me from one administrator then. So, I'd like to have this compiled document kind of on file, I guess, with the meeting minutes for this as well. I'd also like to get Kevin's self-assessment in there with that, as well as I'll bring in the hard copies of all of our kind of handwritten notes on the assignment. I think that should all just be included for record-keeping purposes. So I'll get those all delivered to Lauren. She has this electronically, obviously, and she has your self-assessment electronically.
How do you feel
so.
about, do you want this to be up on the website?
I'd be fine with that. Is anyone opposed to that? The compiled document like this? Yeah, I'm fine with that.
We'll need a bigger screen, though.
Yeah.
Big paper. But, all right, I'll get that, I'll ask Lauren to get that up there.
Great, thank you.
Thank you all very much.
All right. So with that, we'll move on to our consent agenda.
Could I make a proposal?
Sure.
Brett? Would it be, make some sense to maybe move the
Rearrange?
athletic fee and family caps down to the last thing? I think the other things are gonna go quickly, and I think that's one that might take some time for us to discuss.
Okay, yeah.
He just wants me to be talking for the next half hour.
I'm just,
They're all mine. Till we
So
get down to
looking
it.
for a motion to take our consent agenda out of order. Anyone would like to make that motion?
So moved.
So, okay, a motion from Lisa.
Second.
Second from Kelly. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. So we're not going to take it in order, but is it okay still starting with our meeting minutes, or you want to jump to anything else first?
the
Okay.
only thing I think is just to move the athletic fees and
Okay,
caps
to
down
last.
to the
Okay,
very end.
let's do that. So first we have our meeting minutes from June 5th. Did not see anything of note to change here. It was a rather quick meeting. Still 3 pages of minutes.
I checked it as well, I didn't see
I
anything.
didn't see it.
So I'll make a motion to accept the school committee meeting minutes of June 5th, 2019.
Motion from Kelly,
Second?
second from Lisa. Any other discussion on the meeting minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed or abstained? Seeing none. Okay. HVAC bid proposal is next.
Okay.
Ms. Keegan?
All right. So the school district issued an invitation for bids, an IFB, with bid proposals due Wednesday, June 19th, 2019, at 10 a.m., so that was this morning. And that's for our boiler, furnace, and hot water heater maintenance, repair, and inspection services. So basically encompasses all that. And this is the bid document. A lot of it's the prevailing wages. So,
So this is essentially a service contract? Is that-
yes, it is.
Okay,
Yes, and it's under Chapter 149.
okay.
Of Mass General Law, it's not a 30B. So it was advertised as required on the state's central register, Combis, which is part of the state's Operational Services Division, the Town Clerk's Office, the Worcester Telegram and Gazette, and the school district website. 7 vendors did request and receive the bid document, kind of like the bus bid. Some of them are just tracking, I believe even some of them throughout the United States, anybody doing bids on services of this type. Only one bidder attended the tour of the buildings, and actually that bidder did not need to because he's very, very familiar with our buildings. And that was held on Friday, June 14th. And only one bid was received this morning from our current vendor, which is Renaud HVAC and Controls, Inc. I have to say that we've been absolutely pleased with the work of Renaud.
That was gonna be my next question,
An
was,
excellent,
do we have any concerns with-
excellent vendor.
So responsive.
Yeah.
So, actually with regard to the bus transportation, it worked out well. I mean, I know that, because it's like everything in life, it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
So you might get a lot of bids, but you might end up with, you just don't know. So just wanted to put that out there. This is a prevailing wage. It is subject to prevailing wage. So, and that actually has to become part of the bid package. So the, and the bid proposal amounts are based on hourly rates for regular and overtime for master licensed technicians in both the journeyman and apprentice helper categories. So, like I said, it's subject to prevailing wage, so you are going to have higher hourly rates. So the rate increases as far as the hourly rates from the 2009, the current, which is a previous 3-year contract, was anywhere from 8.28% to 12.5%, depending on the category, and also regular versus overtime. But rarely would we require work. I mean, we would certainly not purposely structure any work to be done on Saturday or Sundays or holidays to avoid that overtime. But like I said, you could get another vendor, it may be lower, but then you end up with someone who doesn't know your buildings at all, and it takes them a lot of hours to get to know them. So you might spend 10 hours on a job rather than maybe 2. So, sometimes it balances out. So we were very pleased with the results, and we're just looking for the, first, if you have any questions, and looking for your approval to sign the contract.
Any questions or discussion? Okay, if not,
I'd like to move that we approve the HVAC maintenance, repair, and inspection services contract to Renaud HVAC and Controls Incorporated beginning July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2022. Pursuant to the invitation for bids proposal of June 19, 2019, made by Renaud HVAC and Controls Incorporated based on a grand total amount of $195,450 for the 3-year contract.
motion from Julie,
Second.
and a second from Kelly. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed or abstained? Seeing none.
Thank you. One other thing I want to, before I move on, that I want to clarify as well, that I should have said, when you see the grand total amount, when you're doing an invitation for bids such as this, you just come up with an estimate on hours, and you just keep it standard, so that every bid that you get is based on the same number of hours, okay? So this does not necessarily reflect the budget. I did try to look, I did look at, I think it was 5 years of data, to try to come up with hours, and I actually found that the previous 3-year contract that I did, I was way over.
Okay.
So I actually reduced it, so I
Okay.
just wanted to make sure that.
So the
I
actual
clarified that point.
charges and the actual hours are going to vary.
Incorrect. Yeah, I just wanted to make that clarification.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to skip the athletic fees and family caps and go into our FY 2020 Whiten Community Center agreement.
So the Whiten Community Center, as you know, has been providing a before and after school daycare program, care program, I should say, for students of Douglas parents for a number of years. Their program is conveniently conveniently located at the primary school. They currently utilize 2 classrooms with adjoining bathrooms, and they have use of the gym several times a week, and they also use the playground as well. And we actually moved it a few years ago, moved some of the areas so that everything is in one wing as it stands, so that they're in one, except for moving to the gym, but
Yep.
they don't go there that often. So, beginning in FY 2015, the rental fee was increased from $2,500, which it had been there for years, to $6,000. And it's been $6,000 the last several years, so I'm recommending $6,500. We don't really look at this as it's not a money-making thing. It assists our students in a number of ways, and our parents, for obvious reasons that I just enumerated, but also, more importantly to us as a school district, is that there is collaboration between the Whiten Community Center staff and also Cindy Socia and her staff with regard to trying to align some of the curriculum, some of the things that they do in the before and after-school program, so that we feel that those students, attending the program are actually deriving a benefit for when they do begin school in Douglas as well.
Great.
I didn't know if you had any other questions. And also, the revenue that we do receive must be spent on facilities needs within the primary school.
Okay.
I don't know if there's a short answer to this question, but I'm wondering why it was such a big jump in 2015 and why we're making such a modest jump now. Obviously, we don't want to scare them off, but.
Oh, no, that's just because for years it was at 2,500,
Yeah.
and it just wasn't, to be honest with you, it was never looked at. And so many years had gone by.
Yeah.
I did my best at looking at square footage and kind of did an analysis of square footage, what was reasonable, but also balancing out, the cost-benefit analysis and things of that nature. So, it's a difficult. And to be honest with you, I did try to do some additional research this time, but I was not able to obtain the information I was looking to obtain to see if I could go even higher. But I'll see if maybe next year we can review that as well.
Yeah, again, I think we want to make sure we're covering our costs there, but again, it's not a revenue.
There really aren't any costs. There are virtually no costs. There is some custodial, but it's extremely
Yeah,
minimal.
it's part of the heat and the air conditioning.
Right.
There's some of
right,
those overhead
right,
type
true,
things,
true,
but.
true. But I mean, none of it
I
would
think that's
come.
it's a fairly cost-effective means of kind of after-school, before-school care for the community, so, I wouldn't want to see us charge too much there anyways, but it's have some modest increases every few years, I think is appropriate.
Absolutely.
Location is really critical as well. You're talking about the kids who are accessing it are right there, so it's
Both
easy.
both my kids, attended there for a couple of years, and we were happy with it.
I noticed one other thing with the contract itself on the third point, and this is a typo, but I was just told that somebody had a lawsuit over a Oxford comma, so I'm just gonna point it out. So the second, number three, the second sentence right now reads, "The licensee shall submit to the licensor prior to commencement of the license, proof of all necessary insurance and proof that all employees and volunteers who have direct and unmonitored contact."
Okay.
I'm sure that's supposed to be.
Thank you very much.
"and."
I will definitely fix that.
I'm
Thank
sure
you.
there would be no problem, but I don't,
No,
you never know.
Anybody who knows me knows I used to be called the lady with the red pen, so I'm always correcting everybody else. So people should be able to correct me as well. No, thank you very much. Does anybody see anything else? Okay. No, I appreciate that, because I like everything to be just.
I figured you would. I figured it was okay tree to bark up.
It's actually really interesting because legally that should just be considered a typo in a court of law. I'm no lawyer, but
I don't like typos, so.
Right.
I think in this case it would be, but the Oxford comma one, I want to hear more.
Yeah, I
at
know,
some point.
yeah. Yeah, I was a little curious.
Yeah. And the people who filed suit won, so.
So, yeah, and just should be noted, I think we discussed, but just everyone keep in mind that, we're expanding our primary school classrooms. We're going to have, I think, more kindergarten classrooms. At some point, this program may be in jeopardy, because if we keep growing at these younger age groups, we're going to have to take over those classrooms and figure that out. Hopefully, we'll maintain this as long as possible here, but just something that, this committee needs to keep in mind, and to start thinking about, what would the other options be if we had to take those classrooms back for use as kindergarten or primary school, and that kind of stuff. So, or do you end up sharing those? Are you able to use a classroom for after school, even though it's a regular classroom during the day? So, we'll cross that when we get to it, but just keep it in the back of our minds. All right, so.
So I move to
yeah.
approve the Whiten Community Center rental fee of $6,500 for the 2019-2020 school year for the use of the Douglas Primary School for the before and after school care program.
All right, we have a motion from Julie,
Second.
a second from Becky. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Seeing none. Okay.
Okay, the next thing I have on the agenda is the update to the charge and collection of payment for school meals policy. This is the second reading and hopefully the approval, and it was just very minor things, so. But I did provide the agenda item summary, the same one again, but just did note that it's the second reading and hopefully the approval, so I didn't change any of the verbiage at all. And I did, again, attach the changes. So on the first page, we're just taking out that section because the lady from DESE thought that was redundant. And then on the second page, under number 2, but subsection 3, I guess you would call it 2A and then 3. Just some very minor things, taking out the and the or, and taking out whichever is available, just putting and milk.
Yep.
So just taking out the, and just having the comments. So that's the extent of it.
So here's my editor moment one more time, last time, I swear. On the next page, number 4, letter A, section 1. It has the
Oh,
same.
4, letter A, hold on, okay.
Yeah, number 4,
Uh-huh.
fiscal year end.
Yep,
Letter
gotcha,
A,
yep.
number 1. It has the same language, cheese sandwich or sun butter, blah, 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 veggie sticks or fruit and milk. Do we need to add that comma? The same way that you did in the
Don't
previous phrasing?
think so. I think it was because the other one was for special category of students. All other students, okay. Let's see, that does say all other.
It is the same
Charge up to a
wording.
maximum dollar. The account cap. Account cap. They will be offered. Okay, that's it, you're just reaching an account cap. Okay, now we're over here. Meal.
I mean, it doesn't matter to
Well, I
me,
mean,
but
she
if you
did
have
look
to
at the
take.
whole
Okay.
thing, and she only, and the only thing it had to do with was reduced meals
all
and
right.
free. I mean, so I don't wanna, if we had to come back, we come back, but I
Okay.
mean, it's, but I figured I'd take a look to see if it's the same thing, but it's really not the same thing, so I don't wanna.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Because we don't even know why it was such a big deal to start with, to be honest with you.
No, neither do I. It's just, if it's a big deal, then I was
But,
like,
you know,
oh, okay, well, maybe we can get
Yeah,
it done.
no, I know, yeah,
gotcha.
yeah.
Yeah, and say, if we have concerns, we could always accept the changes as noted tonight, and then,
And she can double check, Lisa can double check
we'll
with
go back and
her.
we can always bring
Right.
it forward again in the future.
Right.
But at least for now, we'd have these changes.
Yeah, per the D, at least it'll be per the DE's, what she recommended.
Yep.
Because I don't want to go change it, and then she'll say, oh, no, no,
Right,
no,
I
that means
understand.
something different.
That makes
Because they're
sense.
very, very picky with the
So
USDA.
could you reach out to her with regards to that?
Oh,
particular,
sure.
And just ask
Yeah.
if we, if there's a reason why we didn't, or should we be updating that as well?
Right, oh, definitely.
Okay,
Mhm.
thank you. Any other questions or discussions? Okay, looking for a motion?
Move to approve the recommended changes to the charge and collection of payment for school meals policy as recommended by the DESE during their compliance review per the attached outline revision.
Motion from Julie,
Second?
second from Kelly. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Seeing none. Nice catch, Becky. We got our new editor.
I know, I won't do any more.
No, we like it, it's good. Keeps us on our toes.
Okay, the
All right.
next one is
Motion of,
disposition of 2 floor cleaning machines of no value. These are actually in one of those classrooms at the primary school that Cindy's trying to clean out. So we happen to be looking around, actually, we're looking at the space for the Whiten Community Center every year. We kind of have a meeting and we review all the spaces and everything and see if there's anything that needs to be reviewed or anything. So happen to notice those machines in there, and it's been mentioned a couple of times, so here they are. And Jeff indicated that what he probably will do is have a current vendor, which is ICPI, for custodial supplies, actually be able to come, they come and pick it up and,
okay.
they can take care of it
Okay.
for us. But it's two floor machines.
All right, any questions? Concerns? Okay.
I move to approve the disposal of the 2 Wrangler model floor cleaning machines of no value located at the primary school, serial number 2626028576282 and serial number 262610823911803.
Excellent. Motion from Julie. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second from Becky. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Seeing none.
I get a little break.
All right.
Mrs. Urquhart, please join us.
So this is for our special education teacher, okay?
It is. Okay, so I am here representing not only special education, but also Mr. Romano and the Douglas High School program. So last school committee meeting, Josh and I spoke to this a little. Julie, I believe you were not here, so I'm going to go over it again. So basically, at the beginning of this school year, what all of the principals and I did was we really sat down and we did an overview of our inclusion programs. We looked at the amount of paraprofessionals, ABAs that we had, amount of teachers that we had. And we talked about looking at more of a research-based model that the entire nation is really moving towards, having more of a collaborative teaching experience for the kids. What this does is it really benefits kids, whether they be regular education or special education students. It allows them to have 2 certified teachers teaching specific subjects. So we really, we started in a very small way at the high school, and we used a few classes where we had a collaborative teaching model, and sort of used that as a small pilot at the high school level. And then at the elementary school, what we did is, as you know, we sort of revamped the entire model in February and moved to having another special education teacher and eliminated 3 paraprofessional positions. Josh, Desi, Laura, and I, probably in October, with the help of the inclusionists, went through what we thought might be a mock schedule for this coming year. And at that time, what we recognized is, if presented with this, we could eliminate 3 paraprofessional positions and be able to successfully meet the needs of all of the kids, as well as the master schedule for the high school. We continued to look at this over the months because, you know, eliminating 3 positions is a lot when you're trying to meet all of the academic classes within the high school. It's a little different at the elementary school because there are not as many classes in the schedule. We continued to come to that same realization that this could work. So what we're looking at is having the addition of another special education teacher at the high school level. Having that look like basically having one person really focus on grades 9 and 10, somebody focusing on 11 and 12, and somebody really focusing on academic support. The biggest thing is, and again, this is no slight on our paraprofessionals because they're absolutely amazing and in many ways the pillars of the classroom. But we really want to move towards that collaborative approach as well as having licensed teachers in front of kids. Because there is a very specific set of standards and training that go into that collaborative teaching model. So that, it actually worked out in the way that we have a student at the high school level who is no longer going to require the staffing assistance that the student had. So that's position 1. Another position, we have a teacher that has accepted a teaching position in another, it was a paraprofessional who accepted a teaching position in another district. And then another person is moving to an internship. So they will have to resign from their position. So the elimination of the positions would not impact anybody specific.
Elimination by attrition, right?
Pardon me?
Elimination by attrition.
Exactly. So, so the proposal would be to eliminate those 3 positions from the staff roster at the high school and then add a special education teacher. So for financial impact, I will move to Courtney.
Actually, there is no financial impact, as the 3 paraprofessionals are budgeted in the general fund, approximately $18,000, so that's about $54,000. So that should cover a special ed teacher. Obviously, I might have to transfer funds, but that's no problem at all. So I do anticipate this would be paid from the general fund.
So do you have any questions?
I got a couple. So I know when we did this at the elementary school level, there was a concern with some of the other responsibilities the paraprofessionals have, I think sometimes covering maybe lunchroom and stuff like that, and by reducing the number of paraprofessionals, how that would impact the overall schedule of the building.
Yes.
I know we've already reduced some paraprofessionals at the high school, we're reducing more here. Do we have the same concern at the high school with regards to some of the responsibilities that paraprofessionals have outside of their one-to-one interaction or one-to-one
Absolutely.
interactions with
So
the
that, and
students?
that's actually why we started looking at this in October, because so many things change. The number of students that you have change, the number of, classes that you have can change. There's all different dynamics that can affect that master schedule. So according to the last one that Josh and I worked through, we're going to be all set.
Okay. And then,
It doesn't affect the duty stations, because the paras at the high school do not perform any duties. They're in classrooms.
Yep.
okay,
Most of
okay,
the
so
time,
that-
teachers do a lot of the duty stations.
Yeah.
But the other piece is, as Neely mentioned, is at the high school, it's different because a student signs up for 7 different courses and may have services in 3 or 4 courses. You need to ensure that you're covering those courses that they have services rendered. So that's the hard part of really working the schedule. But the special education people at the high school have always done a really good job of identifying the students, where their needs are, and then you can build the master schedule off of that to try to address all of them.
And just my other question is, and again, I spent most of my time in the elementary school, so I often
Sure.
see the paraprofessionals kind of escorting their students throughout the building. Does that work the same way at the high school? And by not having those paraprofessionals, are those students now kind of a little more on their own when they're moving
Nope.
from class to class, or do they need that kind of supervision?
So
when
what I
through
think
the
you're referring
building?
to is more students that would have one-to-one support or specific support according to their disability or needs. That is not something that we would ever touch.
That's not the kind of.
No.
Okay.
No. This is more inclusion paraprofessionals, which
Okay.
can be satisfied by a licensed special education teacher.
Okay.
Could you describe a little bit more sort of the nature of the collaboration? Like, I am in my head, I'm not imagining that teachers switch off, the 2 teachers in the classroom switch off, like, I'm leading the discussion entirely today, I've planned the one for tomorrow. So what does that sort of look like in practice?
So there's 5 forms of collaborative teaching. But I think the most common form is, you have 2 teachers, one being general education teacher, one being a special education teacher. They're collaborating on a daily basis on the curriculum.
Okay.
The special education teacher would work to do any modifications or that, for the special education kids. But at the same time, what everybody has to remember is that the general education teacher is also responsible to teach all of the students from the classroom. So what they do is they work together to teach. And really, a big part of collaboration is the relationship and the bond between the teachers. So it's really bouncing off of each other, and making sure that they're in sync. A big part of that, when you move towards that type of model, is 1, making sure that you have the correct personalities together. Full disclosure, that's very important, is people. Making sure that teachers have the right kind of professional development, because, like I just said to you, there's 5 types of collaborative teaching, and unless you've been trained on that, you're not going to know. The other thing is understanding of curriculum. So teachers, we have to understand, especially at the high school level, that the general education teachers have a very content-specific skill set. So we have to make sure that the pairing of the special education teachers are similar. So, to run through a day for you, what it would look like is, it would be very similar in the way of a special education teacher teaching specific classes, whether it be ELA, math, history, science. But instead of doing it within a special education classroom, they're now doing it within the inclusion classroom. So all of the kids are within one setting. And there would be also, we have specific programs for kids. So if there were students that are a part of our Flex Center programs or our STARS programs, there would also be paraprofessionals that would assist for that population. It's a lot. I hope that made sense.
So actually, you know what? I actually thought it was the opposite.
What?
Until you just said this, I thought we were doing the opposite model. I thought that what we were trying to achieve was that the kids were taken out of a classroom and given instruction that they can learn by rather than just being plopped in a classroom. See, I'm thinking
No.
totally opposite.
So the goal in all education is for all kids to always be included and educated within the inclusion classroom or the quote-unquote general education classroom. Some students in different areas may not be able to achieve that, and that is okay. But for the students that can be a part of that, it's sort of double the benefit. And the cool thing about having a special education teacher working with a general education teacher is they have been trained to work on multimodal approaches. So they have different ways of teaching the curriculum to all the kids.
So can I ask another question then?
Sure.
So if you have, let's say, I don't know, probably not honors biology, but you never know. I don't know, a biology class.
Sure.
So the teacher's teaching that. So a special ed teacher would come in and also be a part of that
Yep.
teaching?
We actually had a situation like that this year where we had, I'm not sure it was honors, but we had a bio class, and the special education teacher and the general education teacher, who are both certified teachers and both able to teach those content areas, would work in tandem to teach the kids. The special education teacher, and what you always have to remember too is it is within an inclusion classroom, it's as much responsibility for the general education teacher to educate the special education kids and vice versa. So what they do is like I said, they both teach the content. They may split it up. You know, one might do one part of, let's say there was a 10-minute lecture, then they might split off, do some groups, and then, another teacher might come back and do some more teaching. So there's a variety of ways that you can do it, but the best part of it is you have two licensed professionals teaching all of these kids.
Okay, so I guess, and I'm sorry, I'm just really
No,
thinking,
it's
this
a
is
very
really,
confusing-
it's kind of concerning, actually, in my mind, because I'm picturing a class that there's a teacher that really specializes in what she's teaching, and she's been doing it for a number of years, she, he, whoever. It's a teacher that the kids always want to go to because they really like this teacher. This teacher really makes learning fun. I'm thinking of one teacher in my head right now. And the kids love to take this teacher because this teacher is just a great teacher.
Correct.
So the content, everything, they just love going to that class. Well, now here comes this new teacher who's new, could be new to the field, is now trying to teach a class that, the kids are used to learning this one way. So now this teacher teaches in a certain way that not all kids.
So you never want to limit kids to learning one way.
True, but it's just, I don't know, I guess in my mind, seeing that there's this one teacher that's been teaching a great way, and then you have this other teacher that's coming in and they're going to teach bio, but then they're also going to teach ELA, and then they're also going to, they're going to have this specialty in three different areas, and they may not be as specialized or as knowledgeable, I guess.
Yep. So what's very important is for, obviously, the administration to make sure that the correct special education teachers are teaching the correct content. I'll use Denise Mulligan for an example. She's one of our special education teachers. She's a genius in math. She's math certified. So she can go in within any of the math classes within the high school, and she's able to work in tandem with the general education teacher. It is research proven, I can certainly provide you with that information, that teaching in this way, teaching in these smaller groups, exposing kids to different ways of learning is paramount.
Now, how does the teacher that's like currently the main teacher, like when you say collaborative, like where do they get that time? That's where I'm going with this, is where do they get that time to connect and make sure that they're on the same page?
They prep time. They can use it prep time. A lot of our teachers stay after school, before school. That's really up to them when they want to collaborate. But I can use the elementary school as a prime example. We've had a high level of success this year. This model is something that the general education teachers, the special education teachers, and the students and parents have really found to be a successful way of learning. And, you know, I think the one thing that we all have to take into consideration is we can never lie stagnant. You know, we can never get stuck in one form of kids learning. And we have to understand that regardless of students, of the umbrella within a classroom, we've got to touch every single student. And if you can have an opportunity to have 2 licensed teachers in front of a kid as opposed to 1, I'll take that any day.
I think that, you know, at first glance, somebody might be able to look at this and say, well, okay, well, what about for the kids that find the curriculum too easy to begin with? And now we're adding a special ed teacher, and so the focus is going to be giving these different forms of learning.
But
and
I'm going to back you up.
Well,
Please don't think I'm cutting you off.
No, okay.
I want you to understand. This is not taking the curriculum and watering it down.
Yeah.
This is not taking the curriculum and modifying
Right.
it. This is taking the curriculum as it is presented in a general education class. The students who have modifications or accommodations are provided with those modifications and accommodations regardless.
Right.
All we're doing is adding a teacher.
Yeah.
That's all we're doing.
Okay.
So I just didn't want you to think
Okay,
that.
so the rest of my thought,
Yes,
the
I'm sorry.
rest of my thought was that at first glance, that could be what it seems like.
Sure.
But the flip side of that to me is instead of having a para who, I know there are a lot of licensed teachers who are paras, but instead of having a para, you got 2 full licensed teachers in the classroom. And so however they choose to break that up, if there's 5 different ways of collaborating, if a classroom has a handful of kids who are bored with the curriculum, that gives the general ed teacher some more license and liberty and time, I'm assuming, to be able to push those students too. So
Absolutely.
it sounds to me like it's not, it sounds to me like there shouldn't be any fear of, you know, what would happen to anybody
No,
in
not at
any
all.
level of academics in the classroom.
Not at all. I mean,
like that's a good
if it
point.
does anything, it really intensifies the rigor. Because now you have you have 2 teachers that are pushing forward.
So I guess as long as we hire some really good, solid teachers, then we'll be in good shape, because these teachers could be phenomenal, and then all the kids will be like, oh, this is so, you know.
I mean,
I see the benefit, I truly do.
Yeah,
Now
I
that
mean,
we've explained
the
it
teachers
now.
that we've hired, I can speak very specifically to the teachers that we've hired over the last year. They are nothing short of fantastic. We've kept our level of, you know, having really high standards for the teachers that we're hiring. But beyond that skill set, because anybody can learn to do anything. Beyond that, you have to have that internal drive, that internal desire to collaborate. And if you don't have that in education, you're not going to have the best experience, you know? So, I think it's always important, and as an administration, we think it's always pointing to you. I wasn't pointing to
No,
that
I thought I heard
person.
something.
Okay.
I thought the audience was growing by 1.
What's that?
I thought the audience was growing by 1.
Oh, no, it's just that pocketbook over there. But, what's always important is a pilot. And this is something that we've done over the years with different programs that we've had. And so now we've seen the level of success with the elementary school. The only difference that you will find are those more specific areas. So to speak to your point, I do understand what you're saying, but I will tell you what Josh and I worked on this year was making sure that we started with 3 or 4 classes already. So we've already done this year. And there's been a high level of success for all of the kids. The teachers did this beautifully. I won't say names, but there were 2 teachers, one special education teacher and one general education teacher, who were both on the fence about doing this together, and they flew. I mean, they took this and ran and motivated each other, and have really both grown. because of it.
So to the general education teacher, having a special education teacher is a real asset to them because it helps them to reach learners that they may have been having difficulty reaching. And conversely, having a special education teacher with a general education teacher pays huge dividends because they suggest things that they might not have thought of how to instruct and why don't you try it this way? Let's work on it this way. And it opens up new opportunities and new styles of learning that the teacher is now saying, hey, that worked really well. I'm going to try this in my other class as well. So it is a great trade-off. I hate to show my age, but I piloted a history classes with a co-teaching model better than 30 years ago. So it's not brand new. It is not something that's a novel thing. The biggest issue that has been a stumbling block to this all along was being able to afford to have two teachers in a classroom. Now, fortunately, these teachers are moving to other teachers, and they're not just dedicated to one classroom, so they're supporting other classes as well. But that's the hard part. I mean, I think if in a perfect world, every one of our inclusion classes, if we had two certified teachers, I think everybody would want that. I think every school district would want that. It's the funding piece of it is the hard part. But I've seen it, I've been part of it, and it really is very beneficial, especially if you get a team that works really well together, that they feed off of each other. It becomes sort of electric, if you will.
It is very powerful
And
to
you
watch.
lose the whole idea of, I have a paraprofessional who supports me. Everybody is part of the class. Everybody learns collectively. There really is no compromise to the level of academic instruction that goes on. It doesn't get compromised at all. If anything, it's enhanced. It really is.
I'll tell you a great example that I saw of this second to last week of school. I went to the 6th grade, and I went down there to actually see what was going on with the kiddo, and what was going on in the 6th grade was absolutely amazing because you had your flex center teacher, you had your inclusion special ed teacher for 6th grade, and then you had all of your 6th grade general ed teachers. They were out in the hallway, okay, and they were all literally, they were doing a book share, and they were bouncing off of each other, and with their instruction. The kids had no idea who the special ed teacher was. They had no idea who the paras were. They had no idea who the regular ed teachers were. And that's what it's supposed to look like. It was collaborative. It was fun. You know, everybody was included.
It's inclusive. That was,
It
I was gonna
was
say,
inclusive.
The important piece is the
Yep.
inclusive piece.
And the kids that needed a little accommodation and modification received it, but none of the other kids even knew that it was happening. And that was probably one of the more powerful things I have seen in my time here, was watching the 6th grade team do that. Because beyond what they were doing for the kids, the bond that they had and the understanding of the curriculum and the execution of the curriculum was unbelievable. So, you know, I think that example, we're starting to see it bleed into different areas within the district, you know, but it takes time. And like Kevin said, this has been around for 30 years, and I think we're very innovative in a lot of things that we do. But this is one thing that I feel like we need to move a little quicker on, you know. So if we can get there, let's try to get there.
Thank you. Any other
Not a problem.
questions,
If
comments?
you guys, again, it's confusing. I know a lot of these things are confusing. So if you would like a presentation or anything like that, I'm happy to help out.
It seems like the timing is fantastic with the 3 paras
It really
that are
is.
leaving anyway. We don't have to.
And like John and I said with the elementary school, let's capitalize. If we can get a certified teacher in front of the kids, let's do that.
That's one of the upsides and the downsides to hiring certified educators as paraprofessionals, is that you hope within a short period of time, they've got their own classroom, which means you need to go find another. So there's always that situation. I can't remember a year where I haven't had a para who finally got a job as a classroom teacher.
Right.
Just, which is great. I think it's great. It's a great starting point, great learning experience for someone who is trying to get into the field of education, when they go to that interview that next time around, and they spent a year working in an inclusion classroom and working with, in a small group setting at times, or providing direct instruction, they're heads and shoulders above the person who's coming right out of school, because they have that practical knowledge and understanding of what it takes to really reach all learners, and do it in an inclusive manner. That's the key point to this.
Well, it sounds like we've wrapped up discussion, so with that, I'm going to look for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the addition of a 1.0 FTE special education teacher at the high school, beginning with the 2019-2020 school year. The position will be paid from the general fund.
Motion from Kelly,
Second.
second from Lisa. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Seeing none.
Thank you all
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Urquhart.
Okay, next, new student activity accounts for 2023, 2021 class trip.
Yes, this is for the high school, so this year's freshman class, a class of 2023, hard to believe. But
My daughter's class.
yeah, oh. They need to establish their student activity account pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 71, Section 47. The officers will participate in training with Ms. McDermott, and that's on the proper handling of student activity funds and procedures pursuant to the guidelines. And they also need an account established for the class of 2021 class trip for their fundraising activities, because that will be taking place soon. So there's no financial impact to the district. These are set up each year. And just to let you know that if these are approved, I was hoping they would be approved, because I did add them to the affirmation list as well, that
The
the
next
auditors like
list.
to see every year, so I was hoping. If not, I could cross it off.
We'll deal with that.
It would be my honor to move to approve the creation of a student activity account for the class of 2023, my son, and for the class of 2021, my daughter, class trip.
Excellent. All right, motion from Julie. Do I hear a second? Second from Becky. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed or abstained? Seeing none. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And as we do every year, the auditors like to see kind of an affirmation of the listing of student activity accounts. I do bring them to you usually about this time. And I do have them broken out by school, elementary school, middle school, and high school. The high school goes to the second page as well. And I have the name of the account, the purpose of the account, and also the typical funding source listed there as well. And this does include the ones that you did approve during this year. For instance, the middle school STEM club. I think we did the history club, I
History
believe,
club,
wasn't that
right,
this
with
year
the
as well?
Yeah.
That was last year, I think.
Oh, it was? Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Is there a reason the class of 2022 doesn't have an account? That's my kid.
Well, that's a good question.
Would they already have an account?
No, it should be on here.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and all the schools, actually, they're the ones that,
Yeah.
Yeah, put
Because
the
I don't
list
see
and,
2018 or 2022.
Yeah, and
But
they
I
asked
think
for class of
2018 's done,
23.
so-
They're gone, so, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of, no, was it maybe in the back here? Or did they maybe just miss it?
They relinquished.
I don't see it anyway.
And some of the ones that are missing like years is because we've closed them out, they
Right.
graduated, but yeah, that's a
Older
very
years,
good
but
question.
That's one that should be
Yeah, I
active,
think
yeah.
I just said
It's the thing when you're doing all this stuff at the end of the school year, because everybody's like crazy busy and probably,
So do you want to reaffirm it as is, or do you want to
um,
come
I
back?
mean,
to
the
it?
class of 2022
22.
has to have an account.
yeah, and
so-
especially if we're doing class of
To
23.
me, it's
So-
probably
They
just an
went
oversight.
somewhere.
Yeah, and I'm sure you must have done it. Yeah, so I will make that, I'm gonna put class of, if you don't mind, class of 2022 on here as well, and I'll just update it. So to include the class of 22. And they don't have trip either.
Well, they wouldn't.
They wouldn't, yeah.
They
wouldn't
wouldn't
at this
have one
point.
yet.
They're only-
Yeah.
They're only
Oh,
sophomores
what about, no,
next
but
year.
class of 2020 trip should be, you should have a class of 2020
already
trip.
on there.
Where's 2020?
They may have already been established.
Yeah, but that's,
No, it's
these are
not
all
on here.
established
Should
accounts.
all be, yeah.
Oh, that account there. It's
Unless,
already
you know
there.
what, I'm wondering if it, because they don't do the trip ones, they don't do until they're actually doing fundraising activities and there's a trip.
Right, so they would
2020
be,
should have already started.
2020
That's
they
next
did.
year.
Yeah.
If 2021 starting there already, then 2020 should be. Or should we be
know what,
be
maybe-
establishing the 2020 right now, not the 2021?
Yeah, and those must have been done, maybe she just didn't realize that they weren't on here, that's, I'm just gonna add them.
So should we just make an amendment?
Because you're right, we're definitely, yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna add it. So and if you want to, you can just say, you
Okay,
know,
so-
adding the class of
So
22.
is it
the
right
class of
that
22 class trip.
2021 is already starting a trip account?
maybe
They're not
I think that
Yeah,
graduating
might
they
in 2
do
years?
fundraising.
yeah, but I
Years
think
out
that's
they
too soon.
fundraise?
I wonder if that was the error, that it really is 20
But that's what she, and I even double checked with her.
with.
You
with
would
Elaine.
think it would be 2020, though.
The checks from the
Yeah.
Because
cash.
2021
So, yeah,
would be
Mm-hmm.
the sophomores,
20 has
No,
an
the
account.
juniors now.
going into junior year,
Entering
right?
juniors, yeah.
Yeah, we already have the
Trip.
class of 21.
No, going into
Yeah. Oh, because I already added it, that's why, because I added it.
2022
So
is
it would be
going
going
into
into
the
the junior year,
Yeah.
right. So the class
What is that thing? Here we go.
2020 should already have an account.
Right, because they're
Yes.
graduating next year.
Yeah.
And wouldn't they be collecting
And because
class
she
dues
asked for the
anyway
class
already?
of 21, so we absolutely should
Different.
have
The
it.
trip is different.
Oh,
Yeah.
big- Okay.
Yeah.
They would be collecting dues, so they're in there, so. it would be-
Yeah.
Right, and I know 2022 is collecting dues.
Yep.
I wonder why, but
You
that's-
hope so anyway, right?
I wrote a check.
There you go, as long as it wasn't cash, you're all set.
You know, guess what they have set up? Okay.
Could we defer this until next meeting, just to
Yeah,
make sure
Yeah.
everyone's comfortable?
Yeah,
Why
let's
we
do
submit,
that.
'cause it's not till July 17th.
Oh, no, it's nothing.
Okay.
No, it's
Okay.
just, in fact, it's not even required by law. It's just some
Yeah.
icky thing
That's
that
what I
the
mean, so it
auditors
doesn't seem
asked
to be
for.
anything pressing
So,
to it.
yeah,
So
we'll
let's
just
table
wait.
Defer and.
Table
We'll
Yeah.
wait.
Bring it-
But I
bring
did
it
write
back.
down the ones that we think, you know.
All right.
So, and I'll double check with her. Okay, so we're gonna table
Okay.
this one.
Yeah, we'll table that one. Thank you.
Yeah.
A little confusing.
And that should have been the easiest thing.
Yeah, well, you know,
There's a lot of accounts. Let's go forward.
We never had that problem before, though.
So many
Okay.
accounts.
I
Anyway.
start to move on.
All
So,
righty.
that we will return to our FY 2020 athletic fees and family caps. Do we have a document on that, or no? I don't see it. Okay.
So when we last talked about athletic fees, was it Kelly, did you bring it up? About going to or maybe it was Lisa, about capping it?
Oh, yeah, you had brought up the cap. When we
the
brought
idea
the
of a
agenda
cap.
item
Can we-
summary, we
can we do-
voted on
Idea
it.
of, right, could there,
And so that we had just talked about coming back and discussing the viability, and if the committee wanted to explore a family cap. I think the one thing we talked about was because the athletic fee was originally slated to be $225 and it went down to $200, we were not going to do an individual cap, but we would consider doing a family cap. And then the discussion becomes, what constitutes a family cap if you have 2 children, 3 children? Is it only for the families that have 3 children playing 3 sports? Is 9 sports? So in previous years, it was set at a dollar amount. And basically, it was if you had, based on the number of seasons that your children participated in, because you don't know from year to year if your kid's going to play 2 sports, 3 sports, 1 sport, and so forth. So there was, based on, back at the time, it was $125 for an individual to play, and I believe the cap was set at $500 for a family. So whatever
You basically go
participation's
4
above.
seasons,
Yeah,
yeah, and then your 5th one was free,
Right.
or 5th and beyond was free.
so, but it was years ago.
Yeah,
It was
years ago.
seven-
Way back. You're
7
going back
years
before
ago.
my time.
7 or 8 years ago.
Yeah, it had to be 8 years ago, yeah.
because I know at one point it worked out that if my kid did 2 seasons, the third one was like
Reduced rate.
$50
Yeah,
or something.
it
I
was
think that's how
$50,
it-
exactly.
Yeah,
That's
the
what,
third
that's what it
season.
was.
Because a lot of the kids play 2 seasons, it seems
Right.
like lately.
Right. So, but if you have 2 children playing 2 seasons, that's 4 total seasons. And so do you have a family cap that says, okay, well, if it's $200 a season, it should be $800? Is there a family cap that says it's, $700 or $750, whatever the cap is? So, if you have 3 students that are playing, so I guess the question becomes, it gets a little bit difficult when you have 3 kids who might be playing, and we've had this, 3 kids who've played
3 sports.
3 seasons, and, you know, so that you're talking about a total of, you know, 9 seasons, and so if that were the case, a family would be paying, without a cap, it'd be paying $1,800. So, and let's just say that they've paid more than that in previous years, because I know that has happened. So, do you want to set a cap for families of 2, family with 3 children? How do you want to set the cap is really the issue. And, you know, for example, if you have 2 kids and they just say, let's say they play 5 seasons, that's $1,000 based on our new model of $200 a season. If they played 6, it would be $1,200. So is it, you know, with 2 kids, that the 6th season is a reduced rate, or is even free, if you will? So the cap for two children is 1,000. The cap for three students is
1,500.
1,500 probably. Or it could be the cap for 2 kids is 1,100. You only pay 100 for the last season. You get a $100 reduction type of thing.
I think it would make more sense to be more visual, like if we had maybe some examples like written out, like in my head, I'm thinking if you do 2 seasons and you have 2 or more kids, the 3rd season it's like 50% off or something like that. I don't know. But I think it more has to be visual and see financially what that does for us and for somebody.
So the hard part is not knowing how many each year one group rolls out, one group rolls in,
Yeah,
and so
yeah.
we don't really know
Yeah.
if the kid rolling in is going to play and so forth. So I think if you say, you know, if there's 2 children in the family that are in the school, it would be 1,200. That you would say 1,100. Then they're saving $100 on the final season. Very few are going to play all 3 seasons.
Right.
So they may never realize it, but the reason why the family cap was there is because we didn't want people not to play a final season because it
And
was
I think that's
it
what
was
happens.
expensive. Right. Well,
is
that,
people don't do 3
especially
seasons
when
now.
we raised the fees to 300, and there were no caps. That was definitely a case where people didn't participate. A classic example would be cross country, for example. They run 4 or 5 meets, and then if you qualify, you go on. But you know, it's $300 to qualify, just to.
We saw a big decrease in
No question.
indoor track.
Yeah.
when
Same
it-
thing.
When it was high.
Yeah.
The indoor track team plummeted.
Right.
Because there's only a couple of meets,
Right.
and, you
Right.
know,
Right.
for those of us whose kids run for 5 seconds, it's like, you
Right.
know, why are we doing this?
Right. Right.
So I think anything to encourage that extra season with a family of 2. I mean, one, I get it, it's the individual cap, $600, but when you have 2 kids, again, that's, you know, talking 1,200, it's a lot. I mean, it's really
Right.
not in perspective when you look at the other sports, but.
Well, and at $200, the fee is
Reasonable.
very reasonable.
Now it is. It
Now it
absolutely
is.
is.
I mean,
Yeah.
there was a time that 300, you know, because we were paying $1,800 a year for the kids to do
Correct.
sports. But at $200, we are really comparable with surrounding towns, you know,
There are some that are a
lower
little
than-
higher, some that are just a little bit
Right.
lower.
So,
Yeah.
So I think having it at $200 for an individual to play is definitely, the participation levels have remained constant. If anything, we saw a slight uptick. I think it's hard to say that it's going to be the same as it was 10 years ago because our enrollment numbers are lower.
Yeah.
So you can't really compare 10 years ago to where we are now. But we still have, the participation is still very strong. We did see when we went away from the 300, I think it was 2.25, maybe it was 2.5, 2.25, I think it was 2 years ago. And we saw an uptick in participation there. I think that the family cap is certainly a viability. I mean, I think you could say, you know, if 2 players, 3 players, 4 players, whatever it is, that last season is $100 off. That's a simple way of saying it.
Because it's probably not going to hurt us, it probably would help, if anything.
is it
encourage people.
$100 off for each of the kids, or $100
the
off
total.
For
one?
the family total cost of the family, right?
Well, I was thinking it was for each of the kids. So I said for two students, instead of getting to 1,200, you would only get to 1,000.
That would be $200 savings.
Yeah,
which would
so
mean the season would
$100
be
per
free,
student, and
so-
I was thinking on 3 students, instead of being 1,800, it'd be 1,500. So again, $100 per student, or,
We
Is
need
that
like
too
some
aggressive?
charts and stuff like that.
Similar,
I see.
similar. It's just a question of,
I think you're gonna start losing a lot of money there.
Right.
You have the
you
potential
think
to
that- you
lose,
think it'll lose that much?
Right.
you have the
Okay.
potential
If you're gonna go down to
lose.
2 siblings, you'll start losing more.
Could I ask, what do the fees go to? Is it to fund the programs themselves?
to help
Okay.
offset
That's
the
the
cost of
only,
programs.
that's the only thing you can spend it on,
Yep.
Okay.
athletic program.
And,
High
and
school
we've
athletic
seen what
program.
happens when we don't have the money for sports, so that's why I'm just
Oh,
leery
yes.
of
Right.
losing too much,
Right.
Yeah.
you know.
But if we
And then
can
the
get them
general
to
fund
that
has
third
to
season, that's where I'm
supplement
trying,
it.
that's what I think, that's how I'm focused on it, is getting them to that third season where we want to make money somehow.
Right. Well, I like the idea of that, of taking $100 off
Yeah.
for that third season. I just don't know that you can do 100 off each kid.
Right.
So do you do 50 off of each kid then?
Oh,
Okay,
Yep.
so it'd be 1,100 for 2 kids, cap,
Right.
and it would be 1,650?
Well, I think the idea is to take it off the family total.
Yes.
Total.
I don't think
So
we
just
can,
take a
we-
hu-
I don't, we can't
flat
afford
hundred.
individual
A flat 100
caps.
off- A flat 100 off the family total.
Oh, okay. So instead of 1,800, it would be,
There are very few 3-season athletes, but
The
there's
only thing
I
more,
was gonna say, how many
There's-
seasons
there's
are
more,
there?
well, there's more in a small town like this because
know,
of participation and the ability
But it
to
just doesn't make
participate.
sense to run some, like you said, like we weren't doing a season, because I'm like, why are we gonna pay that kind of money to
Yeah.
like
Right in the
do
middle.
nothing with it? You know, I mean, I'm all for, to get them out of the
So,
house, I'll pay whatever.
If you have 2 children and they both play 3 seasons, instead of it being $1,200, you could say that there'll be a family discount rate, a family cap of 1,100, which saves, the family $100.
Yeah.
And then if you have 3 students who play 3 sports, it would be 16, and maybe it's 1,500, and if you had 4,
Well, 3 students.
I don't know, we have
3
4
students
kids.
at 3 seasons would be 18.
Right. So
then
it
you
would,
take
so it would be
$100
down,
off
so
for
it would be
two.
then, it would be 17, or you could go,
Well, that's what I was thinking, it was basically $50 per student with the 2 students. If you take it $100 total, that's 50. So I was saying if you kept with the same $50 per student,
So take
you back
150 off the backside.
1,800
I
and make
think
it
that's a good idea.
1,650.
Let's see how it works, you know, you do it one
That
time.
That way it's equitable, you don't have
Right.
somebody saying, well, they have
2 and they get $100 off.
2 kids and they're
I have
getting
3 and
100, I
I'm
have
only
3
getting
and I'm
$100.
only
so you get 150
Yeah.
if you have 3.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And I don't
And
think
if
there's a
we
lot
see
that
that
are
it
gonna
doesn't work well,
qualify
then
at all.
we
we're out of hazes, we're out of,
Yeah. So I don't think it's that much of a,
So do we don't have any 4-student families, do we?
Oh, there must be.
Oh, yes, we do.
Well, actually, in
That
high
play
school at
3
the same time?
Yeah, I think
not-
it's,
not
I
anymore.
can't recall a family of 4 participating at
Should
the
we
same
set
time.
a 4 limit just in case?
Oh, no, it's.
Or maybe we just don't have it because it's too expensive for them to afford.
Just discuss it, bring it back.
Do for your own good. We're not gonna- Still play now.
Right, so I think the idea of the 50 per kid on the 3rd season
Yeah.
makes sense.
but that's for 2 and over? 2 kids and
For-
over,
Yeah,
right?
2 and over.
So if you
one.
have one kid that plays 3 seasons, you get no discount.
Correct.
Right, well, we said individually that, and
Because there's no
the discount is
individual
built into the price now, where instead of it being 2.25, it's 200. So in essence,
They got the discount already.
Right.
In a way,
Right.
yeah.
would it make sense for us to hold on a vote? Because I think we want to make sure that we write this
Yeah, so we could just see
Yeah.
it visually.
Yeah.
accurately.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
So that we don't,
Even
Yeah.
have an
Make a
agenda
motion
item
to do
summary,
something.
do an
Yeah.
agenda item summary.
Yeah, so I would just say,
and have
if
it
you do
real
want to extend it
clear.
to 4, I
Yeah.
would recommend it would be 4 at 22, the 2,200 cap would be, so instead of it being 2,400 for 3, it would be 2,200.
Right.
So
it
you're
would be
still doing that
2,200.
50 off.
$50
50
per
off.
student, yeah.
I
so
get
on
what you're
the
saying,
last
so
one.
I get, yep.
So 4 at
Technically, there
2,200.
could be a 7th
Would it be
grader
possible
that's-
to run
Right.
those numbers
University
with the
and-
past,
true, yeah,
with
with
this
that,
past
yeah.
school year to
Technically.
see
Good point.
what,
I think that's
Or
how
would that-
hazes it go down at once.
A little summer.
I don't know, 'cause,
okay.
I think we would have to find out who played what sports. and
Right.
so
Yeah,
forth.
Okay.
Kids
It
they
might be
have,
difficult.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't
But,
have any
so,
of that, yeah.
so Brent, so,
Yeah, I can
I don't think
I
it'll be.
can eyeball it,
There aren't that
having
many.
been involved 3 seasons
aren't
for
that
the
many.
last, I
But
don't
it
know,
sounds-
8 years,
this-
and there's
this-
not a lot
Yeah,
of
there aren't that
families.
many.
We've
Yeah.
kind of moved through the ones I
Yeah.
can think of, we've already moved through those
Yeah,
families.
okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Half the Georges are out. Half
Yeah.
the, you know.
I got 1 or 2 left.
So
gonna
6
do that,
seasons,
okay.
9 seasons, and 12 seasons total. At 6 seasons, it would be $50 per kid or $100. At 9 seasons, 3 kids, $50 would be $150 savings on the family cap, and then 4 kids at $50 would be $200 if they played 12 seasons.
I don't get the season part, though.
So
Just to
season
make
is,
sure that,
X
season
number of
is
kids times
spring,
three
is
seasons.
fall, winter, and spring. You
yeah,
get 3
right,
sports seasons.
only, right, so just 3.
There are
seasons,
3
but
times
you're-
2 kids is 6 seasons.
Oh, okay, but it's, okay. But it's
Yep.
really, it's per, yeah, we want to actually go with the students, not, because it's
Right.
not going to be, we won't be able to, we'll word it a different way. Okay,
But
gotcha.
2
I know what you're
kids,
saying.
play
Yeah.
3 seasons, a
I
total
mean,
of
two
6
by
seasons.
students. Yeah.
That would be 1,200
and
a
it's-
year.
And this
It
probably
is,
is not going to have a
Gotcha,
huge
but we need
financial
the
impact when you
students.
think
Yeah,
about
student,
it.
yeah.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
because not a lot of
okay,
people
I
do the
gotcha.
3
No,
seasons.
but it will be appreciated by the family who's
Right.
writing
Yes.
the
If you have
$1,800 check.
Two students, you know, what are the chances both of them are doing 3 seasons?
Yeah,
You know, it's
exactly.
like, yeah.
It's been, there've been only, I would say, I think of the Hayes family, I think of, did you have 2?
I had 2 running 3,
Three, so-
doing
so
3
your
seasons when
family-
it was
Yeah.
I
$300
could potentially
bucks a
have
pop.
that this coming year,
There you go.
but I pay so much for gymnastics. This is like a
Yeah,
blessing.
exactly, I know.
This is like a blessing
I know,
to
it's like
me.
figure skating, I mean, figure skating
It's
costs
like
a
a rate
fortune.
of-
Fortune.
We'll
So we're
table
gonna
this
bring this
until
back.
next meeting?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And we'll write it up and,
So it's real clear, an agenda item summary on it, so it's real clear for the record and everything.
But it sounds like we're in general agreement on the direction that you're going, so
Yeah.
it's
we
just a matter
want
of
to
getting
do
it.
a budget subcommittee just to review it in advance, or do we not?
Everyone feel pretty good?
Or actually,
I
what we
feel- I
could
think this
do
is
that would
pretty-
not be a problem,
You
if
want
if
anyone?
this is okay with you, and so that, you know, time-wise, is we could prepare an agenda item summary draft and send it to the 2 of you for review.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's fine, I don't,
Yeah.
unless you feel that there's a
Okay.
meeting.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
think it's
Yeah,
straightforward stuff.
if we need a budget subcommittee for other things in addition to this, I'm fine with that, but if it's just for this, I think we're good.
So you still have 2 meetings in the summer to
Yeah,
work
we'll
it all out and so forth.
So I'm gonna try to move us along because
Mm-hmm.
I just told my wife I would pick up my son from practice, and that means I have 5 minutes to get out of here. So,
Okay, so next on the agenda, I have the FY 2019 General Fund Budget Transfers number 12. I just have 4 of them. The first 2 are requested by administrators, and the last 2 is just funding the Douglas High School flood deductible of $2,500.
Douglas High School fund.
Great flood of 18,
That cracks me up
the
every
great
time.
flood of 18.
Does anybody have any questions?
Mr. Mays, do we have executive session tonight?
We do.
Okay. Well, let me get back to
4
my
of us
life.
can, I mean, can't 4 of us if you have to
Probably
run?
can, okay. You're right.
Yeah.
You already made plans with the wife.
Yeah.
out.
Anyone have any questions on the transfers? No, all set? Okay.
I don't.
So we're looking for a
Okay.
motion.
Okay, so I move that we approve the fiscal year 2019 reclassification number, wait, are we doing?
No, we're doing transfer
Transfers,
first.
Sorry.
transfers.
I move that we approve the fiscal year 2019 general fund budget transfer number 12, school committee meeting, June 19th, 2019.
Okay, we have a motion
Second.
from Julia, second from Kelly. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or abstained? None.
And I also have for you FY 2019 reclassifications number 11. And the first one is, we did get another check on that, the middle school thing again, so it actually paid the entire bill.
All right.
Which we're really, really surprised. So that's that. And the next one is just taking payment made from the general fund to the student activity fund stipend account, meaning the student activity fund account for that amount of it. And the next 2 after that is the Douglas High School flood. We received the insurance payment on, I hate that word, flood. We received a payment last week covering the fire detail and the custodial overtime.
Okay.
Great.
So I'm reclassing those payments from our general fund over to the town property liability insurance account.
Okay.
Okay, so I move that we approve fiscal year 2019 reclassification number 11, school committee meeting, June 19th, 2019.
Okay, motion from Julie,
Second?
a second. Second from Lisa. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or abstained? Seeing none. Okay. So, that wraps up our agenda for this evening. Any topics not anticipated? I will just note that, yeah, we are going to look to have a policy subcommittee meeting in the next week, I would say.
Not next week, but the first week in July.
First week in July, okay? Where we're going to try to address an issue that was raised in the school committee through email. So at that time, we'll take a look at that, just to make sure we are comfortable as a subcommittee with the resolution, and then we'll bring back thoughts on that to the full committee at our next school committee meeting. Okay? If everyone's okay with that. Okay? We do need executive session tonight. We will enter executive session to discuss the strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigation position of the government body and to collective bargaining. We will not return to open session except for the purpose of adjournment. But we do need a roll call vote to move to executive session. So, actually, do we even need a motion? So I hear a motion to move to executive session.
I'll make a motion to move
Okay,
to
we have a
executive.
motion from Kelly to move to an executive session. We have a
Second.
second. We have a second from Becky. All those actually, now we can roll call vote.
Aye.
So, Nancy, you have to state your name
Oh.
and
Becky Charniak, aye.
Julie Mulder, aye.
Brett Argel, aye.
Kelly Grady, aye.
Lisa Brown, aye.
Okay, we are moving to executive session. Thank you.